Welcome to another edition of Whiteboard. Sorry, old habits die hard. I don't know if you all are aware, but 8 years ago today, I was in Ashland, Oregon, with probably a good 2 or 3 dozen folks who are in this room today. And I got married to an amazing woman, Geraldine, who's in the audience with us. Today is our 8th wedding anniversary. I'm so sorry MozCon was scheduled today. I promise it'll never happen again. This is the last and only MozCon on September 14th, people, so appreciate that. We have a ton to get through, so let's get started. You can find the slides here, so you don't have to take furious notes if you don't want to, or take pictures of the screen. You will also note that all the URLs are linked to. So what I did is I wanted to re-examine link building the way last year I spent a bunch of time re-examining on-page optimization. And I think the way I wanted to do this is to wash from my mind all the things that I knew about link building up until this point, and instead take a look at companies and brands and websites of all kinds and sizes. You're going to see me cover very, very tiny sites that have just launched that are doing super boring stuff in markets outside the US, all the way to big brands that you know and love. And just to ask, what did they do right? And what have we done wrong in the past? And what is Google going to do about judging links? So you might remember that last year when Google announced RankBrain, they said it is the 3rd most important, you can argue what that means, important ranking factor. And you might also recall Danny Sullivan asking them, what are the first 2? I mean, I think I know, but can you tell me? No, we cannot tell you. And then weirdly, Ammon Johns and I and a few other folks were on a phone call with one of Google's engineers and brought this up. And he was like, what are you talking about? Everyone knows the first 2 are content and links. Content and links. Content and links. Still true. So in the past, link evaluation algorithms, right, have been in these places we're all familiar with. PageRank and source diversity, anchor text, and trust distance, and domain authority, and all this kind of stuff, right? Links location on the page, spam outlink analysis, yada, yada, yada. All these little individual factors, right, around how Google judges a particular link and all the links that point to a website. But this is not where they're going. This is not where they're going. Google's going from the reasonable surfer model, right? Remember what PageRank was supposed to do even in 1998. It was supposed to predict which links on a page were important, and then it was supposed to assign values to them, and it was supposed to assign those based on the probability, the chance of someone clicking on those links. And of course, Google was very naive in 1998, and so all they could do is assign the same weight to all the links on a page, and they assigned the weight of a page based on all the links that pointed to it. Okay. But that is not today. Today, thanks to Chrome and Android and Google Wi-Fi, and what's the one where they run the cables into Kansas City and then they decided they're not going to do that anymore? Yeah, well, bummer. Google knows everything. Everything. You know, I'm thrilled, right, that like Moz is putting together buying some clickstream data and then analyzing that, and you know, we have this sample of searchers. Google's sample of everything that happens on the web is probably in the 80s or 90s percent. It's insane. It's crazy. And so because of that, they can see, right? Google knows where people go, where people were, where they go, and where they go next. You don't need a reasonable surfer model anymore. You don't need to predict, you know. And Google's goal is pretty clear. It's searcher satisfaction. Because Google knows that if they satisfy searchers well, those searchers will return again and again. The number of searches will go up. The number of searches per searcher will keep going up. And that's what we've been seeing, right? Even as desktop has sort of leveled off in its growth, mobile keeps growing. searches and searches per searcher keep growing. So, okay, here we are. Google's core search team, same question every time, right? When I do a search like this, what is this, pasta equipment, very important search query, are searchers satisfied with these results? And the way they know that is basically, are they getting the answers that they're seeking? And Google asks, well, how do we get to that? It's really behavioral data. It's behavioral data. We've seen it time and time again. We know this. I'll show you, and then I'll prove it to you in a sec. All right, so aggregate behavioral data. Searchers on average click the results that we, Google, rank here. Do they rank the ones that get the clicks more highly or less highly? So if you see percentages of clicks like this, which is sort of average click-through rate curve stuff, right? Like more to the top, lower to the bottom, we're all good. We have satisfied searchers. We tend to be doing well. And, right, if lots and lots of searchers are clicking on nothing at all, and instead they're changing up their query, or they're choosing a related search down at the bottom, right? Or they're amending their search, or they're clicking and they're clicking back. Well, if it's something like that, maybe we, Google, should be showing more results for the commercial and manufacturing equipment, right? If people are choosing lots of those things, maybe that means that this query has this different intent behind it. And if searchers on average are short clicking, right? They're clicking on the results and they come back and choose something else, well, maybe I should swap those rankings up. Okay. You might have some skepticism around this. We've done a bunch of experiments around this. We've run a bunch of stuff. I thought most convincing of all was Paul Haar speaking earlier this year at SMX, talking about how they interpret live experiments and how they're using user data and usage data. You can also find a bunch of this in the back channel article that I mentioned in my opening talk. You can additionally find it in the presentation from Jeff Dean on TensorFlow and deep learning. But here we go. I apologize. Bullet points kill kittens. You should never put them in your presentation, unless you're Paul Haar, in which case you get to do whatever you want. Ta-da. Huh. Algorithm A puts P1 before P2. User clicks on P1. That's good. Algorithm B puts P2 before P1. No click. Bad. It's simple, right? Super simple. I mean, it's incredibly complex with massive amounts of engineering resources and mathematics, but easy concept. So if you're Google, you take a bunch of sites and pages that satisfy searchers and a bunch of sites and pages that do not satisfy searchers, and then you look at the people who link to the good and bad pages, and you build a machine learning model to identify traits that the good pages have versus the traits that the bad pages have, right? And there are links that are going to be highly predictive of each one. And this can apply to spam as well. So you could say, this page did a great job of satisfying searchers. It also did a great job of doing super sketchy stuff that we don't want to reward, even though it's satisfying searchers. And so you can apply that same thing. You take a bunch of editorial, high-value search quality teams, hand-reviewed them, right? And then links that points to good stuff but are total manipulative crap, and then you build a model on those. And that's what Penguin was, right? And almost certainly will continue to be, right? Penguin was one of the first machine learning algorithms that we heard about that uses links. So one of the things Google can do now is they start to build up this authority and reputation model that is not just based on a domain itself, but an authority model based on other attributes of content. And we are seeing this in the search results right now. We're seeing it at folder levels, where Google, in my opinion, is looking at folders and saying, this folder we trust, this folder we don't trust, right? These subfolders and subdomains, I think they're going to start doing it for authors as well. And I don't think they need author rank anymore, right? They might just say, like, hey, here's Sam Scott, and we really want to count his links when he links out from stuff on TechCrunch because he is trustworthy, and here's guest author, anonymous guest author. We do not want to count that. We know Google's transforming itself into this machine learning first company. This is going to be the result. In my opinion, this will be the result. I can't tell you exactly how it's going to be executed or when exactly it's going to roll out, but last year we talked about this in July at MozCon, and in October, I remember I was in Heathrow Airport about to board a flight to Seattle, and I was like, oh, look at that. There you go. It's a nice confirmation from Google with RankBrain that they're doing exactly what we said they were going to do. I think, whether it's when Penguin rolls out or the next link update, we're going to hear exactly the same thing. The nice part about this is, more than at any time in the past, Google is letting us see inside their head. They're basically saying, like, at least here in the US, other markets, granted, and markets outside of English language and Western Europe, for sure, they're less good at this. But at least in these markets, I think they're doing such a good job fighting spam and manipulation that they're basically like, sure, come at me, bro. Like, I got this. I can tell you exactly what I'm going to do, and there's nothing that you can do to manipulate me. Very few things. As a result, we know what's going to build great strategies for us in the future. I'll show you what I'm talking about. All right. If I'm a marketer and I'm thinking about my link strategy for the long term, I've got to have a strategic roadmap with goals, with a particular approach, because you can't get good at something unless you are concentrating on it, focusing on it, improving it. And then you have your tactical initiatives, the things you're actually doing each day to move the needle, and you have metrics that you use to measure it. This is pretty classic. I don't care what kind of investment you're making, personal, professional, you need one of these. Links are the same thing. So let's try an example. I found this website ranking on page 2 for either pasta equipment or commercial pasta equipment. Geraldine, you tell me if my accent is terrible here, but it's lineapasta. I think it's .it. .it. It's a great website. I mean, this is totally my kind of website. Look at this. Do you see? There's a mustachioed mascot, clearly a match. I mean, the site's about pasta. I'm all about pasta. And they have solid reviews like this one. Can you read it? Everything fine. Is most Italian review I ever hear. Eh? Prego. So, Linea Pasta. They do not have a ton of links, but they're doing okay. Let's say they've got, right, they're going to take a strategic link approach here. So they have some link goals, like they want to rank for key terms that are going to bring the right customers to them. They're not too worried about content marketing and earning a lot of traffic that's not directly converting. So they're going to apply a very product-centric link strategy. They're going to use partnerships because they have a lot of relationships with restaurants and with vendors and with media and chefs in order to get those links that they want. And the plan is we're going to do outreach to our current partners first, to our through our salespeople, to our restaurant buyers. We're going to leverage our founders' contacts with the restaurants and the chefs and the PR through media. And then we are going to measure that through the links that we get and through a number of other things. Good. Good. Way to go. I like this. This is a strategy. It might not be the right strategy. It might not work every time, but it is a real strategy. It's something you can test and iterate on. We're going to need a couple other things here. We desperately, in the link world especially, we need buy-in on experimentation, right? If you find some amazing link tactics like image galleries, which Ali Brown mentioned in this link roundup. I'm not usually found in roundups, but some of the link ones are pretty solid. I think that's great. Awesome. You should be able to pursue it. You should be able to fail. You should be able to fall on your face and get up and do another one. You need the right expectations on the time to get to ROI, right? Because we've all been through the slog. If you've done SEO ever, you know that you start working, and a few months in, everybody's tapping that foot, going like, "What? Come on! I thought this was supposed to bring us a lot of traffic. Where is it?" And then, of course, you eventually get there. And you've got to have this balance. And I'm going to talk about both of these sides of the equation today. The balance between long-term investments and short-term hacks. So long-term investments might be things like, well, we're going to do a content marketing strategy, or we're going to have a big press strategy. And short-term hacks might be like, well, we're going to find some listing sites that accept pasta-related websites, and we're going to submit there. So long-term investments, they have high upfront costs, they're slow to show returns, but they earn links while you sleep, right? They're earning links while you're doing nothing. And virtually non-existent spam risk because they are entirely editorially given. Short-term hacks tend to be you pay in time or dollars as you go with each one, right? They can show very fast return on investment, no doubt about it. I'm not disputing that. But every time it's effort in equals links out. You'll get a little bit better, and maybe you'll develop some, reduce some of that friction, but in general, they also tend to have more spam risk. Not all of the tactics that I'm going to talk about will or do, but some can have them, especially if you're not careful. I'm not going to let that stop me from talking about it. I don't think that's appropriate. We're going to be transparent. Let's be transparent. So I looked at these many hundreds of websites, and I built 5 categories, 5 sort of what I'd call long-term strategic link plays that work. And I could not find a site that didn't fit into one of these. That said, if you have seen a website that is doing sort of what you'd call a long-term strategic link play that fits the model, I'll share the models that I'm using here, and you think it doesn't fit into any of these 5 categories, please let me know, because I would love to follow up on these. But so far, I have found no website that doesn't fit in one of these, no successful ones anyway. First one, first path, the community and user-generated content path. How's it work? Well, you start by enabling a platform where a community is essentially earning value by contributing content or products or ideas or reviews or submissions, and then you invest in amplification of those contributions, right? You let the platform help amplify the people, and you nudge your contributors to essentially drive links to you. I'll give you a ton of examples of these. I'm sure you're familiar with many of them. This is how Yelp gets links, right? Through their badges. This is how TripAdvisor gets links. This is how Etsy gets links through products, right, that people put on the community. This is how Medium gets links through the content people put there. It's how Dribbble gets links through all the designers pointing their portfolio there. It's how Memorandum gets links by aggregating lots of news, political news. Tech Meme is the same for tech. This is Product Hunt, gets a bunch of app developers and site developers and tech developers and game developers to do it. This is Ravelry, which we heard about last night at Ignite, right, where knitters are putting up all their patterns and those kinds of things. It's Forex Factory, right, which is, as far as financial websites in the Forex space goes, pretty darn white hat, and they've done it through creating a community that contributes and then links. Second path, press and media. Press and media. This one's pretty simple too. It works because you focus on the people or a product or an industry, a particular problem that's naturally attracting press, blogger, influencer interest. And then you leverage sort of the fundamental underlying factors of fame or controversy, of storytelling, et cetera, and you earn amplification through that. And you try and associate, in general, you try and associate, if you're doing SEO anyway, you associate your narrative, your story, with the keywords that is most important to your search traffic. This is Tesla. I mean, Elon Musk has never had to build a link in his life, right? This is Warby Parker. It's Dollar Shave Club. This is Uber, Goldie Blocks, Simple, great company out of Portland, Oregon, Glowforge, right here in Seattle. So all of these folks have essentially earned their links not through specific outreach, but really through press and media and being worthy, press and media worthy with a great narrative behind them. Third one, embed path. This one, I would say of the 5 that I'm going to show that are long-term, has the most risk. And I believe Was it earlier this week or last week that Google actually posted again about the risk of embeds? Was that this week? Yeah, last week? Okay. Yeah, so how does it work? When it works well for white hat sites, you're basically creating a platform, media, commerce, and anything you can imagine, or products, could be tools, graphics, forums, that works via installation on third-party websites. So it's basically people take your stuff and they put it on their site, and that is how the platform works. You build the initial audience. Usually, it doesn't have to be big usually. It can start really small. And then you're essentially using that to get a broad adoption. Those early adopters are helping you build that platform. And then you're leveraging the embed format to earn the right links to the right places with the right anchor text, all that kind of stuff. This is SlideShare, right? It's Vimeo, it's Typeform, or SurveyMonkey if you like. This is Rotten Tomatoes, right, with their critic reviews and with their tomato fresh scores. This is WalkScore, who does this in the real estate market. It's TradingView, who has a whole section on charts and widgets. It's very impressive in a hyper-competitive space, and they do really well with it. I think because they nail the embed format. They really get it right. And they don't try and be too spammy with them either. Fourth one, partnership and alliance path. This one is a little more complex, and it tends to be, it's very, typically very B2B. So basically works with, you find an audience for your product, your service, your company that forms links alongside a partnership type of relationship. And then you craft some type of common structure for how those partnerships look. You nudge through the partnership through whatever you want, contracts or informally, suggested style, logo use, citation requirements, et cetera. And you vary your link destination and anchor text over time. And you give pages a boost when and where they need them. A lot of times, APIs and data use stuff, it sort of almost takes on the embed concept in a way. But this is how folks like ReturnPath, who judge the quality of email sender addresses and email sender IP addresses. It's Full Contact, right? It's Trulia. This is Box. This is SendGrid. This is Otis Elevators, who in many of the commercial buildings and for many of the commercial real estate architects who use Otis Elevators link to them because of the partnership that they have together. I mean, this link building for Otis Elevators is probably tough, but partnership path works great for them. And then last, but certainly not least, probably one of the ones we are most familiar with, especially in the Moz world, content marketing. Right? So when I do get a little frustrated, like I see sometimes folks say, content marketing is just the new link building. I think all those sites that I showed and all the strategies that I showed before don't really fit into what I'd call content marketing replacing link building. First off, content marketing is its own whole world, and content strategy is its own whole world. And content can be used for things that are not just link building, and many times should be. But content is just one way that you can build a long-term link strategy. Works very simply, right? You publish content that has high chances of earning natural links, you market that content through channels that you own and control or through influencers, and you build a scalable process for amplification to reach new audiences so you can earn links from new places. This is Eater. It's Master of Malt. Master of Malt, actually one of my favorite examples, because they don't do this with traditional, what I'd call content. It's not written content or visual content. They do it with a product content. They essentially take amazing old whiskeys and then they pour very small drams of them and they seal up the top with wax and they sell them on their website. And so you can buy these things that you would never be able to buy or afford. Well, I would never be able to buy or afford, except through this particular process. Like their content in the content marketing is tiny drams of whiskey, which I think sounds like my new favorite form of content. It's quite amazing. It's possible we'll return to whiskey in a moment. It's WordStream. I mean, Larry Kim, he basically was like, no, I see your content marketing and I raise you an order of magnitude. incredible. Collectors Weekly. If you haven't checked out Collectors Weekly, it's kind of phenomenal. They're basically a portal to get to their eBay pages, but their articles are so phenomenal. Their content is so incredible. I think Geraldine and I had a dinner conversation, I don't remember if it was last week or a couple weeks ago, all about one particular article they'd written about like tchotchkes that people buy and put on their walls, put in the walls of restaurants, and the whole industry around it. It's incredible. This is PolitiFact, right? Who rates candidates' truthfulness in political statements. It's Groove HQ, whom I'm sure many of you have seen phenomenal content from them. It's Polygon, it's KPCB. KPCB, also one of my favorite content marketing examples because, well, until recently, they only released one piece of content every year. And it was good enough. That was good enough. Everybody knew who they were. If I say the name Mary Meeker at a tech crowd, everybody knows exactly what she does. They know that she's only producing content once a year. Well, was only producing content once a year. They know the name KPCB because of her incredible content. I think there's a fair question to be asked here, and that is, why isn't number 6 manual link acquisition? Why can't manual link acquisition, you know, the go out, get a link, see where your competitors are getting a link, get another one from there, go to a directory, get another link. Why is that not strategic? Why doesn't that make the list? Well, here's how it works. I find places to get links, right, wherever that could be. I figure out a way to acquire each potential link, and then I move on to the next potential link source. I mean, look, I did that for years. That was like my first 3 or 4 years of SEO, was just this. Maybe a little bit of keyword research. But the thing about manual links is they do not scale with decreasing friction. This is what a true long-term strategy looks like. A long-term strategy scales up, meaning you can do more of it, while the friction of doing each incremental piece decreases. I do those things, and it is the same work that's required on day 3 as day 300, right? You're not getting any benefit of scale here. Maybe you're getting a little bit better at it, but I don't think that counts, right? That's incremental improvement, not massive reductions in friction. These 5 strategies, these 5, over time, less work yields more results. That is what I mean by a strategic framework for link building. That's why so far these are the only 5 that I found in the hundreds of sites link profiles that I analyzed. What I see great link builders doing is focusing on a flywheel. Since I'm most familiar with it, I'm going to use Moz's flywheel as an example, and I think most of you are very familiar with it, and so you can join me in this exercise, all right? So we do some keyword research, right? And we have some industry intuition about what we think, you know, it's like me and Trevor and Brittany and Russ and Ronell, right? We all get together and we're like, okay, we think this thing is good, and you know, we should have Gianluca write about that. We publish his post, we push it out to email and to our RSS subscribers, we promote it via social channels, we earn some links and amplification from that, and then we grow those channels, right? Each channel, as we amplify to it, each channel grows in size, assuming we've done a good job, right? This is the whole idea behind a great content flywheel, and that helps grow our domain authority and our industry authority and our expertise in the field, right? And that earns us search and referral traffic, which is tends to be much more high intent, and then we can rank for more and more competitive keywords, and we do this again and again and again. Now, in 2006, I was lucky. I was the only blogger on old SEOmoz.org, right? And I was lucky if any piece of new content I published led to even one new link. I was thrilled. It was pretty silly, right? But I would come home like, I got a link today, got a link today. Now, 2016, I mean, it's almost embarrassing to say, right? But pretty much every post we publish gets some links. Some of them get many, many, many links. There's almost never a post that doesn't get one link. So, you know, I don't even celebrate it anymore. It's not as special. Moz is kind of this business built on content, right? business built on a content flywheel. Dollar Shave Club, which just sold for $1 billion, sounds nice. They're built on a press and media flywheel. Almost entirely press and media flywheel. That was their link strategy, it was their paid strategy. They did a brilliant job of it. Dribbble, built on a UGC community flywheel strategy. The thing about flywheels is almost everyone is gonna find points of friction, right? My point of friction was I could not earn those links to the content I was producing. I couldn't earn amplification to the right places, right? But if you know where that friction lies, that is where I see the best, smartest link builders applying short-term tactics, applying what many of us in the marketing world have been calling growth hacks. That's where you can really move the needle with a short-term tactic. Hacks are not necessarily evil. They're not necessarily spammy. They don't necessarily violate anything, right? They can be super useful when you plug them in with a flywheel that's already working. These are a few of my favorite hacks, but I'm not just presenting these like, you can go ahead and use them. That's great, I want you to. But I want you to know that there are 10,000 of these. And you've heard of many of them and you'll find many more. But if you make that the center of your strategy, you will not build a flywheel. If you build a flywheel and you find points of friction and you apply these types of tactics to it, now you have something. Now you have a competitive advantage. First one, republishing. This is powerful. Republishing is great, right? I take an existing piece of content, I recreate a part or a whole. Ross Simmons talked a bunch about this, right? And then I create additional traffic, additional reach, additional rankings from that. Medium, for me, has been a great cheat code, right? The built-in network reach, the ability to use the cross-domain rel canonical, the ability to link to wherever I want to, the fact that I can drive, Medium's been great for this, right? But I have a ton of republishing tactics in this webinar that I gave earlier this year, and you can check that out for free. Second one, guest contributions. I'm not calling it guest posting, because guest posting is sort of like directory link building. Like, there are some directories that maybe are a good idea, but for some reason the word has been corrupted. This is my favorite piece of advice that I've ever read or seen about guest publishing. You should aim for 100 rejections a year. So the author says, I asked her what her secret was, and she said something that would change my professional life as a writer. Collect rejections. Set rejection goals. You want to be great at guest contributions? You should make a goal not of acceptance, not of publications, but of rejections. Tactical tip for these. The language you use to find the opportunities matters a lot. If you're using terms like submit post or guest blog or guest post, chances are like the scuzzy SEO world of the early 2000s is going to overrun you. Usually solid, however, share your story, write for, guest author. I don't know why, but these tend to turn up much better. Number 3, geography can be a big, big opportunity for great tactical links. So let's say that I am Ace Spirits in just off Main Street in Hopkins, is it? Hopkins, Minneapolis? Anyone from, or Hopkins, Minnesota? Anyone from Hopkins or near Minnesota? Yeah, all right. Isn't that cool? Sweet. That's the best part of wearing a microphone. Okay, I'm very white. Like, let's just settle that right now. No one's. So, step 1, I am going to do a search for their competitors, other liquor stores, spirit stores in the Minnesota area, in fact, in their particular area. And then I'm going to find some popular businesses, 2 in particular. Anyone from Minnesota want to help me pronounce Surdix? Surdix? Yes, all right. Surdix and Zips. They have the most reviews, so I'm going to use them. I'm going to use a combined query to find all the places where both of those are mentioned. Oh my God, I mean, Google, this is beautiful. Look at that. Links, 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 links. All mine, all free for the taking. Actually, a couple of those you might have to pay, but all right. I now have a public service announcement that I would like to make. It is an important one. You should be very cautious if you are building slide decks late at night while visiting online liquor stores, because sometimes this happens. That is $347. I'm really sorry, Geraldine. Sorry. No, I know. I'm very irresponsible. Well, remember I wanted to buy that bottle of Octomore like around the corner, but they had like great prices, and the shipping was only like 25 bucks. Plus, I did this on Memorial Day, and I got this email like 5 minutes after I ordered from the owner of Ace Spirits, who said, I used to use your services at Moz, so it's likely your input guided you back to us. Pretty cosmic. I'm gonna order so much scotch from this man. It's just like, oh man, that's how you put a smile on this guy's face. Pretty awesome. Okay, number 4, small site or content acquisitions. Some great blog posts have been written about this recently, but you can see here, right, that essentially, if I was Linnea Pasta, I mean, that blog is earning almost no money. They're probably struggling just to get the posts up. Making them an offer of a few $1,000s or a few $100s a month to move their site over to a subfolder of mine, that'd be beautiful, and the links just roll in, right? So buying stuff can be very good, and there's a couple of good blog posts out there about that too. Number 5, you can be someone else's press. If you are creating content and you are covering a space, if you write about other people in your space, especially new people in your space, new startups, new companies, people who are desperate for press, who are looking for attention, like this, I mean, they're linking to, yes, the Boston Globe and Seattle Times and stuff, but they're also linking to smaller sites out there, GeekWire and others, Peach and Retail Works, there's a bunch of different, the window dressing blog, the Dockside Deli was mentioned in the Ozuki Press. You get the idea. If you write about other people, they will link back to you. 6th one, I keep doing experiments on this because I just love it. FYI, anchor text, still super powerful. You can see here how anchor text on my bio leads back to everywhereist.com, Geraldine's site, ranking for pretty much whatever I put in there, mostly because my bio gets picked up by lots of places who write about me or Moz, or anytime I speak at an event, or anytime we are cross-published somewhere. Bios are powerful. You should, if your founders or your CEO or anybody in your organization has a bio that gets picked up, you should use the anchor text therein. Number 7, okay, directories, I mentioned this, it's just like guest posting. This stuff is real sketchy. This stuff works pretty darn good, returns high quality results for a lot of the industries that I looked at in my work here. 8, testimonials. Not putting testimonials on your site, giving testimonials to other people. This is like very, very similar to the write about other people and become their press links. If you offer testimonials, very, very often, people will pick them up and they will link back to you. Great way to go, very editorially given. You can get links from the home pages of incredibly powerful sites through this. And sort of a twist on this is case studies. If you're willing to go above and beyond a testimonial and to actually do a case study around a vendor that you're using, you can frequently get multiple pages pointing to lots of stuff on your site with these. Number 9, still works great, the image, brand, content reclamation. So if you have monitoring set up for people who are already using your stuff, or if you want to do it manually, so there's a bunch of ways that you can do the reverse Google image search. The best one is to use the right click and then search Google for this image. I don't know why, but the other ones don't return as many results, at least for me. And then you can find people who have used your content but haven't linked back, which is sweet, right? Because all you generally have to do is drop them a line and they will do it because they'd prefer not to have a trademark violation on their hands. You can see that search Google for this image returned like 200 results for this particular image that I created a couple years ago versus things like TinyEye or the Google Images search, which just didn't have great results for me. If you want to do this at scale, you can use a monitoring tool. Mention and, what's the other one? Talkwalker, those types of folks. They'll let you do it for words and phrases, but not, unfortunately, for URLs and for links. So that's frustrating. Fresh Web Explorer will, but you decide. Most of you are probably Moz Pro members, so that would be free. Last one, orthogonal alignments. I wasn't sure exactly what to call this. I think lots of people in the SEO world call it different things. But you basically take your website and business, and then you find all these connections that are not necessarily directly related to what you do, but are orthogonal to what you do. So they could be things like employee programs, or tech that you use, or sponsorship, social causes that you support, founder attributes, whatever it is. So artistic intersections, right? Like you have a site that is designed all in CSS, and it is very, very pretty, and it's adaptive. You can submit yourself to hundreds of galleries that'll be happy to link to you. And by the way, many of them, you control the submission title, which means you can use your brand name and anchor text. They're editorially given links, right? Because they approve them. They're some of the best like directory kinds of links you can get out there if you're doing this type of design. Social causes, right? So if you are Moz, right, and we're part of the GSBA here in Seattle, or the 50/50 pledge, which MozCon joined this year. You can see those right in there too. Here's Seer Interactive, right, with their sponsorship and support for the Phil Olympics, or the Startup Grind events that they host there, right? All this stuff can work well. These 10, thousands like them, work great. But my final advice here, you need to ask a few questions. You've got to ask, do my links mimic how people might find the site without search? I think if the answer is no, you are at high risk from Google evolving their reasonable surfer model into a we know everywhere everyone on the internet goes all the time model, and we can use machine learning and deep learning around that to figure out which links to count and not. If you do this, you're safe. You are safe for the long term. You've got to make sure that the links are from your linking sources, not just to you, but from any source you're interested in, are pointing to places that searchers find valuable. And we have to ask, is that link profile going to pass Google's machine learning smell test from a spam perspective? So the way that I think about it is this. Imagine you're all smart SEOs, right? You go to Open Site Explorer or Ahrefs or Majestic, right? And you're looking at a list of links. And when you do that, you can pretty easily go, that doesn't look right. That doesn't look right. That doesn't look right. And we're all really good at this. A machine learning system will be able to do the same thing that a human being can do today in the future. If you've got this strategy that aligns with a long-term play, your links are going to be great. You're going to be safe, and you're going to keep ranking because links keep working. They keep working years and decades after we thought they were going away. If you haven't aligned them, I think you are in big trouble. And I urge you not to do that. We know where Google's going. We've got the power to set a strategy and to use tactics to reduce those points of friction in the strategy that we pick. I hope I see some phenomenal link building from all of you. Thank you.
So as a content strategist, I'm very proud to hear you say content marketing strategy is its own thing and content strategy is its own thing, because it's very commonly conflated, which is a huge problem. But something I want you to touch on. By the way, I'm still ticked off at Dr. Pete bring the whole wire thing full circle. I feel like he put content strategist in a vacant, so wire reference. Sure you wire people get that. But he really highlights something I've seen Russ talk about, I see Brittany talk about, and I've seen you and Dr. Pete talk about. As a content strategist, when I look at Keyword Explorer and I see no data, or I focus so much on very, very high competition terms, but that's not my best opportunity. So one of the things I want you to highlight for us very simply is don't be afraid to go after something that doesn't seem like it's the best opportunity, but it's the best opportunity for your brand.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely the case. I mean, so content and links work very beautifully together, right? And all of these strategies work very beautifully with search. So a lot of the time, what your boss, team, clients, managers are expecting of you is rank highly for the terms and phrases that send us converting traffic, directly converting traffic. I don't want people who are just browsing the site. And then you, on the other side, as a content strategist or as a link builder or as an SEO, are trying to convince them, hey, no, we need to approach this from another angle in order to earn the signals that we need to rank for these terms over here. And that is a really tough story to sell for folks who don't understand how SEO works and how Google works. I think the obligation sits on us, on all of us, to explain this connection, to do a great job of it, and to get that buy-in, right? To make people understand, to make our teams understand how that works. If, you know, I don't have awesome tools for you beyond you need to figure out what works for your audience, right? What is it? Is it competitive? Is it data-driven? Is it KPIs? Is it a story, a narrative that's going to help? But it's our job to convince them.
I agree. Well, I could stand up here all day and ask you questions. I'm sure the audience feels the same. But let's give it up for Fishkin, Wizard of Oz.
Oh my God. Thank you.